bankruptcy, hacking, billions of dollars gone, most of it yours, and we are still just scratching the surface. The FTX saga keeps getting worse, but we need to talk about who else could be next. Starting with AAX, it has suspended user withdrawals and said it could be 10 days before they resume. The exchange said a scheduled upgrade to its system meant the suspension had to be implemented to protect users. But AAX customers and others are worried. Ben Caselin, vice president at AAX, has spoken exclusively to the Daily Forkast. He said the exchange had categorically not been trading using customer funds, adding that every customer deposit was covered, but big concerns remain.
There's a lot of vulnerability in the market. We find ourselves vulnerable at the systemic level. We definitely want to make sure that user assets are safe. We're trying to do things properly. It's going to take a bit of time.
Ben told us that fear is currently reverberating right throughout crypto. While not everyone has been acting maliciously, as some have accused FTX of, that fear already seems to be wreaking havoc.
I believe that the exchange is acting in good faith. We know actually it would be a great victory for the industry if we make sure that this goes right, even if that means we lose the interest of the world, because it doesn't all have to go like with FTX, right? It doesn't always have to be some scam.
There are big concerns too about what's happening with crypto.com. Questions emerged over the weekend about the exchange sending around $400 million of Ethereum to Gate.io in October. The amount was thought to be roughly 80% of Crypto.com's Ethereum reserves at the time. It also came just before Gate.io released a proof of stake of its own reserves. Subsequently, Gate.io sent back around 35,000 less Ethereum than it had originally received from Crypto.com. Crypto.com co-founder and CEO Chris Marszalek hosted a Twitter Ask Me Anything to clarify that there was no malfeasance in the transaction.
At no time the funds were at risk of being sent somewhere where we couldn't get it back. And of course, we build the systems in a way to minimize and eliminate any potential for any kind of errors.
It's not the first time that Crypto.com have accidentally sent large amounts of money though. Last year, it reportedly sent a woman in Australia $10 million instead of $100, and it took 7 months to notice. Lachlan Feeney is founder and CEO at Labris.
Not all of the funds were returned. A majority of them were returned, but not the exact same amount. So people have speculated, was this actually an accident, or was something else going on here?
Currently, the exchange says it's struggling with a backlog of orders, but crucially, it hasn't suspended anything so far. Marszalek, though, acknowledges damage has already been done to the whole sector.
I think everybody agrees that this sets back the industry a good couple of years in terms of our reputation, the efforts we put in, and trust was damaged, if not lost. So in this kind of tumultuous times, what we need to do is focus on rebuilding this trust.
It's this fear and lack of trust in crypto that are now making some really question whether these companies have the assets that they claim to. Proof of reserves is an idea that's quickly become accepted as a need in crypto, but some have raised questions that money movements before some of these alleged proofs, like Crypto.com and Gate.io, demonstrate the opposite. Here's Vincent Chock from crypto custodian First Digital Trust.
What is the proof of reserve really? Is it really identifiable to the fact that each dollar, each token is accounted for, and wherever it's invested in, wherever it's placed, those have been tracked properly and audited properly by credible third-party auditors?
Meanwhile, we are all waiting to see what happens with Sam Bankman-Fried. Questions have grown over the weekend since it emerged a possible $600 million had vanished in an alleged hack at FTX. It's been suggested he may be in the Bahamas, where FTX HQ was located. The Securities Commission of the Bahamas is already conducting an investigation. However, regulators there have also just accused FTX of lying. FTX said in a tweet on November the 11th they'd begun to facilitate withdrawals at the request of authorities in the Bahamas, but that has been denied by the Commission. who said that any such withdrawal would be, quote, voidable. Things keep going from bad to worse, essentially, for FTX, and worries grew in particular after it emerged that funds were being moved, possibly stolen from FTX, despite the bankruptcy filing and the suspension of withdrawals. There's been all sorts of rumors too circling social media over the weekend. That includes things like private planes chartered for Argentina and non-US extradition treaty locations like Dubai. Much of it has also focused on the leadership of FTX and sister company Alameda Research, including Alameda CEO Caroline Ellison. The Wall Street Journal reported on Saturday that the top execs at these companies knew that FTX customer funds were being used by Alameda to meet liabilities. How much did they move? $10 billion. To give you an idea of how much that is, what a huge sum of money we are talking about. That is the value of companies including the likes of American Airlines, Burberry, Rolls-Royce, and the New York Times. If any one of those companies disappeared, it would reshape an entire industry. But $10 billion was customers' funds, and that should have been protected, according to FTX's own terms of service. Now, much of it has apparently already disappeared. Reuters said that $1 to $2 billion of client funds are also unaccounted for. Very clearly, speculation about precisely what happened at FTX continues to basically set the internet on fire, but there are very serious worries now about contagion. We told you signs of those were emerging in our last episode, and things continue to look ever more concerning for the sector and for anybody that has any sort of money in it. Increasingly, calls have grown for people to take greater charge of their own assets.
This message shouldn't just be for crypto.com. This should be for any person who owns any crypto assets on any crypto exchange at the moment, whether that's Coinbase, Kraken, Huobi, crypto.com, Gate.io, any of these exchanges. If you hold assets on there, you should consider sort of pulling them off at least until the dust settles.
You never want to see people lose money. You never want to see people feeling, there's people that has their whole life savings placed in an unregulated exchange. When there are proper ways of doing that, you can actually achieve the same thing by using companies, using proper qualified custodians, using trusts that can actually help you place those trades, hold your crypto in a proper manner.
We're going to talk to you about all of that in much more detail in our next show, but it's vital you stay up to date on what is going on, and we at Forkast are trying our hardest to make sure that we can do that for you. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss it.